Today, we're going to talk about something that secretly runs so much of our lives. It's called classical conditioning. It is the real reason why a certain song can instantly make you happy, or why a specific smell can just fill you with anxiety. And you know what the craziest part is? The discovery that explains it all? Yeah, that happened completely by accident. So here's the game plan. We'll start with that accidental discovery, then we're going to break down the process. I'm calling it deconstructing the drool. After that, we'll see how we learn, forget, and remember these things, explore some even cooler concepts, and finally, bring it all home to see how this stuff is happening in your life right now. But first, let me ask you something. Why does the sound of a dentist's drill, just the sound, make your palms sweat before you've even sat in the chair? Or what about that little buzz from your phone that gives you a tiny jolt of excitement? Well, the answer to all these little mysteries is exactly what we're talking about today. Okay, so our story doesn't start in some fancy psychology lab. Nope. The answer to why that drill makes you nervous actually started with something, well, a lot more slobbery. So, you gotta meet Ivan Pavlov. And get this, he wasn't a psychologist. He was a physiologist, a Nobel Prize-winning one, in fact. And he was just trying to study the digestive system in dogs. But he noticed something weird. His dogs would start drooling, not just when they got the food, but when they saw the food, or even the person who was about to feed them. He knew right away, something else was going on here. So Pavlov, being a great scientist, actually put his famous digestion research on hold just to figure out this weird drooling thing. And to really get what he found, we need to break this whole process down into 5 key parts. First up, we have the unconditioned stimulus. Okay, unconditioned is just a fancy way of saying unlearned or natural. It's something that just automatically makes something else happen. No training required. In Pavlov's experiment, this was the dog food. And that automatic reaction is our next piece, the unconditioned response. It's the natural reflex. The dog sees the food and it drools. That drooling is the unconditioned response. See? Food in, drool out. Makes sense, right? Okay, now Pavlov decides to throw something new into the mix, a neutral stimulus. This is something that by itself means absolutely nothing to the dog. Imagine ringing a bell. Sure, the dog might prick up its ears, but it's not going to start drooling. The bell is totally neutral. But here is where the magic happens. Pavlov started ringing that bell right before he brought out the food. And he did it again and again. Pretty soon, that neutral bell wasn't so neutral anymore. It became a conditioned stimulus. Conditioned just means learned. The bell now meant something. It meant food was coming. And that leads us to our last piece of the puzzle, the conditioned response. This is the new learned reaction to that stimulus. So now, Pavlov could just ring the bell, no food anywhere in sight, and the dog would start drooling. The dog had learned that the bell meant dinner. This slide just lays it all out perfectly. Look at panel 1. Before anything happens, the food makes the dog drool. Natural. Panel 2, the bell does nothing. It's neutral. Then you get panel 3, the important part, where the bell and the food get paired together. And boom, panel 4's the result. The bell, all by itself, now makes the dog drool. That, in a nutshell, is classical conditioning. So we see how the connection gets built. But you gotta wonder, how strong is it? Does this learned thing last forever? What happens if you just stop bringing the food after you ring the bell? That initial learning phase has a name. It's called acquisition. This is where the brain is forging that link, connecting the dots between the neutral stimulus, our bell, and the unconditioned stimulus, the food. And the key thing here is repetition. It has to happen over and over again. This chart shows it all. You see that first upward curve that says acquisition. Every single time the bell and food are paired, the dog's learned response, the drooling to the bell, gets stronger and stronger until it hits its peak. The learning is happening in real time. But what if Pavlov starts being a bit mean and he just rings the bell over and over but never brings any food? Well, the association would get weaker. That's called extinction. The dog basically learns, hey, this bell doesn't mean anything anymore, and the drooling response starts to fade away. But here's a really fascinating twist. Let's say Pavlov gives the dog a break for a few hours. Then he comes back and rings the bell just one more time. You know what might happen? The dog might start drooling again just a little bit. This is called spontaneous recovery, and it proves the response was never totally erased. It was just hiding. Okay, so the basic idea is pretty clear, right? But believe it or not, conditioning gets even more complex and, honestly, a lot more interesting. It's not just about one bell and one response.
So let's look at two sides of the same coin. On one hand, you have stimulus generalization. This is when Pavlov's dog might also start drooling if it hears a doorbell or maybe a chime on a phone, anything that sounds kind of like the original bell. The response generalizes. But on the flip side, you have stimulus discrimination. This is the dog learning to tell the difference, figuring out that only that one specific bell means food is coming, and it can ignore all the others.
And this cartoon is just a hilarious take on generalization, right? This snail has clearly generalized its positive feelings for another snail to any object that's even vaguely the same shape, even a tape dispenser. It's an extreme example for sure, but you get the idea.
And this stuff can even build on itself in layers. It's called higher order conditioning. Think about your cat. It learns that the sound of the can opener means food is coming. Okay, so the can opener is now a conditioned stimulus. But now what if every single time right before you use the can opener, you open a really squeaky cabinet door? Well, eventually the cat will just hear the cabinet squeak and come running before you even touch the can opener. Let's just walk through this diagram here. Step 1. The can opener is paired with food. It becomes a learned signal. Then, step 2, the squeaky cabinet is paired with the can opener. And in the end, the cabinet door itself is enough to trigger the response. It shows how you can build these complex chains of association, one right on top of the other.
All right, this is all cool for dogs and cats, I get it. But let's bring it back to us. How do these century-old principles explain some of our own weird hidden behaviors?
Just think about it. Ever gotten really sick after eating something, and now you can't even stand the smell of it? That's called taste aversion. It's powerful classical conditioning, and it can happen after just one bad experience. A lot of phobias work this way too. A single scary experience in an elevator can create a powerful fear of all elevators. But the good news is, we can use this knowledge to help. There's a therapy technique called counterconditioning, where you pair something you're afraid of, like a spider, with a state of deep relaxation to slowly overwrite the fear with a feeling of calm. So we've come full circle. We started with Pavlov's dogs and ended up with our own lives. We now know why the dentist's drill makes you sweat. That neutral sound was paired with a not-so-great experience, and it became a conditioned stimulus. So the last question I'll leave you with is this. Now that you know how it all works, what are the unconscious bells in your life that are making you react without you even realizing it?